In this tutorial, we'll focus on customizing the user interface of the Headless CMS. In particular, we will focus on customizing the edit form for a particular content model. Now, we'll first start with creating our content model that we're going to work with regards to this tutorial. So let's do that. Under Headless CMS models, we'll quickly create a new content model. We'll name this one pizza. And we're going to deal with, let's say, pizza recipes and history and things like that. All right. I'm going to put it ungrouped and let's see if there's an icon for food. Doesn't matter. I don't think there's one on pizza. Oh, there is. All right, let's use that one. We won't use the default fields. And we're going to create our content model. All right, let's add a name for the pizza. Let's add a, let's say, price, which is going to be a number, right? Then let's add another number field where we say number of ingredients. Let's add a toggle. Is it gluten free? Then let's add two long text. One we'll call recipe and the other one we'll call history. So let's have a look how this looks like. Let's just change the history into long text. There we go. Okay, so this is one example content model that we want to essentially restructure visually. So we want to keep the same data schema. We won't be dealing with the API side of things. Instead, we're going to focus on the actual UI of that form. For now, let's just save the content model. Great, and let's now navigate to new pizza dialog. Back to our IDE and terminal. So this is the current code of our project, and we again want to first do an extension to the project by running yarn webbing extension command, after which we're going to start the watch command. One important thing to note is that you don't want to be running a watch and doing an extension because the watch won't be able to pick up the new files that the extension created automatically, and thus the build on the watch will fail, so you'll need to restart it. So as a general best practice, it's always to first run the extension so that all the necessary files are created and then run the watch. Let's do exactly that. So in our terminal, yarn webbing extension, we're going to specify the type as admin because the application we want to extend is the admin. The admin app is responsible for all of the admin interface, including the layout for our pizza form. And we're going to give that extension a name. So this is going to create the necessary extension and the necessary files in the extensions pizza layout folder. So if you go here, you've got the pizza layout, and at the moment it is empty, which is fine. Now, what we want to do is run the watch command. Yarn webbing watch admin dev, and again we just add a p flag here while the watch command is in beta, but afterwards this is no longer going to be necessary. When you run the watch command, the watch will automatically, build our project, start a local web server, and open our browser to localhost 3001, where it's going to display our admin app once the build is complete. So any changes that you are making to the admin app from this point onwards will instantly hot reload and be visible on your screen. Now we have the admin app running. And again, we are now only watching the admin app, while the API is still being served directly from AWS from our dev environment. But because we created previously the pizza content model in that environment, it's also visible here in our local admin app. So if we go to new pizza, we get back to our pizza form. Just everything is running on localhost on our local development server. Let's now navigate to github.com/Webany. And there we're going to go to the Webany examples repository and to the Headless CMS folder. And then in there, we will have the partner eval guide folder. And inside of it, there's a custom layouts example subfolder. Inside this subfolder, we've got a file that we can open. So let's just select all the code. So this is the sample code we're going to use in this guide that we're doing. And once we've selected the code and copied it, let's get back to our editor in there. So we've opened the pizza layout extension. We're going to just delete the existing code and paste the code that we just copied. Let's wait for the build. Let's wait for the watch to rebuild. Once it's done, let's get back to our local host. And in case the hot reload didn't kick in, which sometimes can happen, just reload it. After the reload, as you can see, hey, I've got now 3 tabs here. The first tab has the name, price, and number of ingredients fields. The second tab is the recipe. The third one is the history. So we completely adopted and changed the layout of that form. There's one other thing that's been added. So if we do a price here of, let's say, 1, but then add the number of ingredients of 10, oh, see what happened there. It says, please double check your input. The price of 1 seems far too low for a pizza with over 6 ingredients. So this is one other cool thing that we're going to explore in this demo. Let's explore our code a bit. So if you open, again, that file that we just added our code snippets to, we can see a couple of things here. First of all, we're importing a plugin and a CMS content form renderer plugin alongside a few UI components that we're using to change the visual appearance. Now, if you go to the very bottom, here we're exporting the extension, and this is then pretty much mounting our custom plugin. That plugin, the system will load whenever we open a model form, so basically a content model form with this ID. So if you remember, when we were creating the pizza content model, we gave it a name of pizza. So the system knows to apply this plugin whenever we load the pizza content model. And what it does then, it just gives us a way to return from a render a custom component that's going to be displayed instead of our default form. Let's look at that component now. So that's the very core of this file, which is this bit. All right. So at the very top, we just do a quick, very simple check. Is the price of the pizza too low? And what we mean on the price is just a simple condition in this case. Whenever the price attribute, so you can access all of the values that the user is typing just as they're typing, just by accessing the data property and then giving the name of that field here, so basically the field ID. So if the price is less than 20 and if we have more than 6 ingredients, we're going to say that the price is too low. So this value is going to be true, and then essentially what we do here is, well, if this is true, we're just going to render a grid with a cell, and inside that we're going to mount our alert component, which is going to display that message, hey, your price seems to be too low. Now, this is a very basic example, but you can go beyond this example here. What you can do is, for example, import our security module and then say, hey, if you as a user within the current context don't have the permission to do something, we can hide certain fields based on your permission levels. We can disable certain fields. We can show new fields and things like that. You can do conditional rendering of fields. You can also introduce custom fields here that, based on their value, populate certain hidden fields inside the form. So there's a lot of things you can do here. But the point is, you have a lot of that control in your hands. It's basically just plain React, and you can completely tailor that experience to your need. Now, if you look at the way that we customize this form is we introduce the tabs component, and then we have the general tab, the recipe tab, and the history tab, and we've just are rendering the field. So the field, we don't care about if it's the rich text field here or if it's a long text. We can just say to the system, hey, this field, recipe, you just render it here. That other field, history, you just render it here. Whatever the field type it is, you see, you don't need to worry about mounting those components and all of the complexities. Webany handles all of that under the hood for you. All right, so I hope this gives you a pretty good understanding of some of the possibilities that you have with Webany, which makes Webany quite unique to many different headless CMSs on the market. If you go to our docs portal, so webany.com/docs, under the headless CMS, you'll find a more detailed approach to the same tutorial that we just did here. So customize entry form layout. It's very similar to what we did here. And this example here also has that bit where I mentioned, hey, if you load the security, you can then also do additional checks. And let's say in this case, it was, hey, if a user contacted this recipe, if they don't have the specific permission, then we don't show this field. Besides this, I mentioned a bit about conditional rendering. So there's an added tutorial if you want to have a look. So here, based on what you select, the price validation rule changes. So that's one of the conditional rendering examples you can dive into. You can also do conditional visibility. It's all more or less based on this very similar approach of mounting a component that does attach itself to a specific model, to a specific model in a field, and then changes the visual appearance of that, or actually in some cases introduces new fields and so on. So I encourage you to explore some of those additional documentation examples that we have on our portal, as kind of if you want to learn more about these visual rendering capabilities of the Webany Headless CMS.